guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I thought it might be fun to just sit down and chat with you pregnancy tests versus ovulation tests. If you're new here, my husband and I are trying to conceive baby number 2. We're in that TTC journey, and when you are in that TTC journey, pregnancy tests and ovulation tests are obviously a big part of it. If you are currently in a TTC journey too, definitely let me know down in the comments. Before we jump into it, if you enjoyed this video and you like mommy and lifestyle content, then I would love if you would consider subscribing. It's that little red button down there. It's totally free. And if you like this video and know of someone that it could help, then share it with a friend, Facebook, Instagram, and definitely tag me so that I know. All right, guys, let's jump in. Let's chat about ovulation tests versus pregnancy tests. First, let's just talk aesthetics. Let's talk about how they look. And you have two choices when it comes to pregnancy tests and ovulation tests, strip tests versus digital. For the most part, those are your two options. And I have two digital tests right here. This is the Ovulation ovulation test. I made a whole video about these. These are great. And then this is the Clearblue digital pregnancy test. So when it comes to pregnancy tests and ovulation tests, they tend to look very, very similar. And I will take these out of the packaging so that you can see. So this is the Ovulation digital ovulation test, and then this is your Clearblue pregnancy test. So there are obviously some differences, but for the most part, you get a stick, you get a little cap on one side. That is the side that you remove the cap to then dip in your urine sample to then get your result, whether you're testing for ovulation or testing for baby. Pregnancy and ovulation test strips tend to look even more similar. So obviously, again, these have some differences, but the HCG test strips and the LH test strips look almost exactly the same. A lot of companies will color code them differently, which can be very helpful, especially when you buy those combo packs and you get both LH and HCG tests. So it's just something to keep in mind. So obviously, these tests are testing for different things. An ovulation test is testing for a surge in your luteinizing hormone, or LH, and a pregnancy test is testing for the presence of HCG. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that, HCG in your urine. The way you test is quite similar in most cases. Dip testing, which is what these two tests are and what most strip tests are, then what you do is you collect your urine in a disposable clean receptacle, and then you dip your test in for anywhere from 5 to 15 seconds, lay it down flat, and then come back in 3 to 5 minutes and read your results. Now with pregnancy tests, there are also the drip tests and the midstream tests. I haven't seen any of those type of tests for testing for ovulation, but definitely let me know down in the comments if there's more than just a dip test out there for testing for ovulation. Okay, so here's where we come to a major difference, and it is the time of day that you would test. So for pregnancy, I'm sure if you are part of the TTC community on maybe a fertility tracking app or Facebook group, then you've heard of FMU, or first morning urine. It's recommended that you test for pregnancy using first morning urine. So the second you wake up, the first time you go to the bathroom, you collect that pee in a disposable clean cup, and then use that to test for pregnancy. Now, the opposite is true if you are testing for ovulation. So if you're testing for ovulation, it's actually not recommended that you use first morning urine. Your luteinizing hormone tends to make an appearance in the afternoon or evening, so it's recommended by doctors to test twice a day because some women's LH surge window can be quite short, and to test later in the day for a better chance of being able to detect LH in your urine. Now, the big difference between pregnancy tests and ovulation tests is actually your fluid intake beforehand. So before you take a pregnancy test, I'm pretty sure that your intake of fluids doesn't negatively impact or dilute your HCG. Definitely let me know down in the comments if I'm wrong on that. But I do know that with ovulation tests, they recommend that you limit your fluid intake 2 hours prior to taking an ovulation test that can dilute the presence of LH in your urine and give you a false or inaccurate result. Okay, so now let's talk about reading your tests and reading the results. With a pregnancy test, it's really fun because even the slightest test line is a positive. However, with an ovulation test, it's not a positive test until your test line is as dark, if not darker, than your control line. So I think we're all kind of familiar that there are usually two lines on a pregnancy and ovulation test. There is the test line and the control line. The control line is always going to show up unless the test is invalid. When you're testing for ovulation, your test line usually starts out quite faint if you start testing a few days after your period ends. What you're looking for is that indication of an LH surge. And that indication comes from your test line being as dark, if not darker, than your control line. That's quite different from a pregnancy test because, like I mentioned, even the very slightest, faintest test line in comparison to your control line means that it is a positive test. I found that really confusing, especially when I was first getting into this 2 years ago when we were trying to conceive with my son, but that is definitely something important to keep in mind. How you read these tests definitely differs. Once you get your test line on pregnancy tests, if you continue testing, hopefully your HCG levels are doubling, and that will indicate a growing pregnancy, and your line will get progressively darker and darker and darker. Whereas with an ovulation test, you continue testing after your LH surge, your line will then eventually, after it has reached its darkest color, will start to get lighter and lighter and lighter. I remember this from when we were trying with my son, but a lot of women were talking about using the ovulation test as a pregnancy test, and that is something technically you could do. So use a pregnancy test to detect any LH in your system, so you can't use a pregnancy test as an ovulation test. However, if you were all out of pregnancy tests, you could technically use a ovulation test to pick up HCG. Apparently it works. It's not recommended because there's always a consistent, even very small amount of LH in your system. So if you're using your ovulation test to pick up HCG, it could just be picking up the remaining LH in your system from your LH surge and giving you a false positive / inaccurate information. Is information that I had come across, I remember, from when we were trying for my son. Both tests, you can only use them once. So I think like all pregnancy and all ovulation tests are one-time use only. Again, please correct me in the comments if you know of pregnancy tests that you can use more than once. That's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I thought it would be fun to just kind of talk through some of the similarities and differences. If there's anything that I forgot or anything that you want to add, definitely leave it down in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye, guys.